welcome everybody to what I am sure is going to be a fascinating webinar together, an opportunity to come together all around the world and share our thoughts and ideas on a very important and highly relevant topic about how we manage this transition in a sea of uncertainty. How on earth do we navigate our way forward as individuals, in teams, and for our organizations? Now, a couple of things. Before we truly get underway, there's a little bit of housekeeping for us to do. So Raj, if you could just show me the next slide. Thank you so much. Just to let you all know, we do record these sessions. It's hugely helpful for everybody, both for yourselves. We will email you a link so that you can re-watch the recording afterwards, and also for any colleagues that were unable to attend today but had pre-registered for the event. So please do be aware of that. You can submit questions at any time. You've got that capability in front of you, so please do that. We'll be encouraging you to use that functionality. So let's get going straight away. If you could do just, find that little button, and if you have any questions, just start to put them in to that question box for us, and we will have time to come back to that a little later on. Excellent. All right, now then, next slide, please. So let me introduce myself. First of all, you might know me. I have met some of you. I've looked at the delegate list for today. So if you're listening and we have met previously, it's lovely to be talking with you again. If I've not met you personally previously, then my name's Nick Coulton. I am one of the two exec directors of the APM group worldwide, and I have a particular focus on the operations side of the business. So really pleased to be with you today. And also let me introduce the main man who's going to be talking us through the bulk of the content, Raj Khanna from Raj Khanna Associates. Hi, Raj.
Oh, good morning, everyone. Hope you're all well.
Okay, all right, very good. So thanks, Raj. We'll hear a lot more from Raj in the next few minutes. I just wanted to sort of set the scene first, if I may. So there's a few things which are happening right now. It's very, very unusual times. And I mean, we're a global business, so we started being impacted by the current situation in January. Towards the end of January, as you know, we have a business in China. We're based in the northeast of China in a city called Qingdao, which if your geography is not so good like mine, mine's not great. If you kind of think of where Beijing is, turn right and head to the coast. Qingdao hosted the sailing in the Beijing Olympics all those years ago. All right, so that's where we're based. And luckily, fortunately, it was not a region that was impacted too heavily. However, it did, of course, as a nation, mean that people couldn't go about their daily work in the usual way. So it began for us in January and has roared across the world ever since then. And our businesses at the moment in Africa, in Australia, in Southeast Asia, in Europe are beginning to recover a little, but they're different. And those in North America and particularly Latin America and Brazil right now are still in the eye of the storm, I think, so some way to go. So I wanted to kind of start off by inviting you to let us know about how you are feeling. So let's go to the poll slide, please, if we could do. And Estelle, if you could show the poll. Thanks very much. So just really take a few moments to choose one of those options in response to the current situation, COVID-19 situation. How do you actually feel about the immediate future? All right, and fill that in for us. And we will share, the view of everybody, the collective, the intelligence of the crowd, if you like, in a few moments when folks have had an opportunity to choose. While you're doing that, I guess I'll share with you a couple of things that I'm finding. Firstly, organizations are searching for certainty. They're looking to, perhaps their national politicians for certainty. They're certainly looking to healthcare sector for certainty. They're looking to family and friends for tactical solutions about How do you cope during lockdown? What can you do? What can you not do? And so on. And Estelle, could we share the answers now? Thank you very much. And you know, in the middle of all of this kind of chaos and confusion, there are personal concerns around employment. Some folks have been incredibly busy, far more so than they were during the previous kind of BAU phase. Others face an uncertain future with regard to their own ongoing employment. And wherever you are in the world and whatever your situation, if you're maxed out or you're, you know, waiting to restart your day-to-day job and your day-to-day way of living, there's a sea of change about to happen to us. And really that's what today is all about, helping you navigate your way through, giving you some ideas, giving you some techniques that you can use personally in your own life, in your family's life, and also from a work context around how do you manage transitional change, how do you plan and execute when the degree of uncertainty is very, very high indeed. People have done incredible things around the world, whether they've been in primary healthcare, whether they've been in critical care, looking after people in hospitals, whether they've been the kindness of going and doing, you know, food shopping for people who were vulnerable and unable to leave their homes. All of those simple, small acts of kindness have made a massive change. I think you would agree with that. I'm now going to hand over to Raj so that he can tell us a little bit about himself, his background, and then take us through the content. I'm going to remain on the webinar and I will be around to help answer any questions later on. Okay, thanks very much. Over to you, Raj.
Good morning, Nick. Thank you for that. Just really very quickly, I'm not going to take time introducing myself too much. As you can see, I have a lot of years experience. You can see with my with my gray hair coming up, and apologies, like most people, we haven't really had a lot of opportunities for haircuts recently. So I have a lot of experience in the world of program, project, and change management, and I want to take that opportunity today to share some of those things with you. So how do we come out and what do we do? What can we do? I just want, so at least it gives us an idea, a quick poll, because some of you have got lots of qualifications, and just really look at this poll and just to get an idea what sort of qualification you may have, and then when we are addressing questions, I can relate back to your area. So just quickly say which qualifications in project, program, and change management world you have. Okay, thank you for doing that, and we will come back and review that later. So generally, and I wouldn't use the word traditionally, is we talk about project management as the blue bit. So if you see on the screen in here, we deliver something, and that something can be referred to as a product, could be referred to as a deliverable. Then we go through the change, and then if you see traditionally or generally, we tend to measure the benefits sometime in the future, okay? And the program management is referred to as the umbrella term that covers all of those aspects to say, we deliver our capabilities, we get people to transition, and then we realize the benefits. So what is it that we're going to talk about that makes it different today? So first of all, what we need to think about is we're going to do something different. Now that we refer to as pre-project. Now different organizations will have different approaches on what this looks like. Here's our suggestion, work we've done with lots of public, private sectors in the UK, abroad, India, Oman, Dubai, etc. And so my suggestion is that before we start that initiative of ours, what should we do? So we would encourage everybody to be thinking about, what would we like? And that with what we call an expression of interest. And there'd be things like the reasons, the problems, etc. That should go ideally to a central team, like a portfolio management office or a change management team, etc. And they're the key questions they'll be asking, i.e., have we done this before? Do we know somebody else who's done this before? And most significantly, how does this align with the organization's strategic objectives? Because every organization, regardless of your size, as we know, coming out of COVID-19 will be looking to do things differently. So for example, Google have said, nobody needs to come into the office till 2021. And if I understand it correctly, they're giving their staff $1,000 to buy furniture, etc., to make their home office comfortable. So here is, how does this align with our strategic objectives? What's our direction? So if I went to Google and said something about changing the way that our office is laid out, well, this is aligned right now. Have we got the time? So we're starting to do some form of prioritization. And that will go somewhere to a decision-making body that may be sitting in some corporate headquarters or hopefully in the organization. And when they say, yes, let's go and do this, we now have a start. So my suggestion is we do put an effort in this pre-project rather than somebody saying, let's do this and go away and do it. So this document called Expression of Interest, which we've worked with organizations, we'll be talking, as I said, about the reasons, etc. So now we have an initiative. If that initiative is simply a single process, so I use the word simply, but just say it's a single process. The accident and emergency departments all over the world today, and Nick mentioned them this morning, we want to create a triaging procedure. So when somebody comes into a hospital and they have a respiratory condition, we want to triage them and we want to treat them slightly differently to somebody else. Now that's one process. Do we need to set up a big level of governance? For us, the idea is no. So get a development team, and there are videos on our website, which please go and watch, where I've created a website about talking about methodologies like Scrum, etc. So you bring a development team that has a doctor, a therapist, a nurse, and administrative staff. Get them to write the procedure and then train people on using it, and that's it. However, if it's something more, then what do? So we go into something like feasibility. And feasibility is saying, as the word suggests, is it feasible? So what we like you to think about are 4 key areas. One is the scope. How big is it? What are we trying to do? Which business areas are affected? Is it just one area? So is it just the reception area? Is it about a team of certain areas? C is the complexity. How complex is it? And I is innovation. I haven't really thought about it as an acronym at the moment as to what word you might think about. So if you can share that with us, then that'll be great. So is it feasible? The other question you might look at, and a lot of people talk about this concept of PESTEL. So saying, is it feasible from a political point of view? So there are things we're trying to do. Is it politically correct? Is it economically correct? Can we afford it? Is it affordable? Is it socially economical? What's happening in the world? So if we are going to be shown to be spending a lot of money, how would we as a company be seen, etc.? Technological, legal, environment. So you do some work. Based on your answers at that moment in time, you then should be saying, how do we now manage this initiative? Because the view is, there is a difference between programs and projects. And our opinion, apart from the size, and that's really what we'll be going to talk about in practice, there is no difference. So as a chat box, I might like you to just think about, if you can, and we'll see if either we get time today or we'll do a follow-up email with you all, is what do you believe is the difference between a program and a project? Because that's the bit we want to do. At the moment, I'm suggesting, apart from size, there isn't any. And hopefully this is going to say. So don't spend lots of time saying, is it a program or a project? So we say we have an initiative we need to manage. You then go into foundation and you do some more work. You refine the information that you have. And now you ask the question, how should we manage this? Is it really big? Should we manage this as a program? Or actually, we keep the level of governance down and we'll manage it as a project. And they're the kind of things. There is no reason why, having done feasibility, you think, you know what, it's not very big. Let's go back and simply give it to a single team, and that's the end of it. Single layer of governance, no hassle, get on with it. Or you build up. So do not spend too much time worrying about whether it's a program or a project. Here's an example. I know we have several people from the United Kingdom, but of course we have a lot of people from across the world. We have a program on the BBC called the, it's gone to SIS for some reason. It should be DIY SOS, the big build. So whether you are constructing, whether they're renovating a house, which you can look at a single level of governance, which is at the project level, or they're actually renovating the entire street, which was in Manchester. They did it for people from armed forces. Alternatively, we're going to build an athletic stadium. If all we're doing is building an athletic stadium, then that to me is a very, very, very large project. Currently, we're working with somebody from Aruba and doing praxis training. And his project, as he calls it, is renovating or extending the airport in Aruba, which originally was $200 million, but post-COVID is being reduced. Now, I'm not going to give figures, etc. It's not my place to do so, but it has been reduced because of certain circumstances. And of course, COVID-19 has remained. So that stadium is on its own, and that to me can be managed as a very large project. However, if the same stadium is part of the Olympic program, then that will be managed and should be managed as a program. It's about where do we define the level of governance? Because one of the projects within the Olympics program was the hockey. As some of you, I'm a national hockey umpire in the UK, and I'm also a national hockey coach. So it is my passion. I love hockey, and being Indian, being brought up in India, hockey and cricket, of course, are my two main areas. Now, one of the things, as you see in hockey, they use the blue pitch with the pink surround. So the question was, what color ball should we use? Should it be yellow? Or should it be the traditional white? Should it be pink or other colors? Now, that decision needs to be made for me at the hockey project board level and not at the program level, which is the Olympic Committee. Because if I'm sitting there as an athlete looking at the stadium, am I bothered? What color ball are you going to use for hockey? Why don't hockey sort it out? Why bring it to me? So you see, not just thinking about size, think about, can we devolve decision making? So Praxis talks about the, I think for some reason the letters have dropped out, the discontinuous mind. And what in here we have is how tall is tall. My wife is 5 foot. To her, I'm very tall. I'm 6 foot. I can reach places she can't. I have a nephew who's 7 foot. So actually, is it a program? Is it a project? Try not to spend too much time worrying about that. It's only to do with the governance. But also, there is this view, and I'd read an article on LinkedIn a few weeks ago about when you grow up, you can be a program manager. When you're young, you could be a project manager. Actually, to me, that is wrong. Look at the individual, and we'll be talking a little bit about the change management aspects of APMG syllabus. In here, if you see the Myers-Briggs personality types, somebody who could be sensing prefers fact, concrete information, whereas somebody prefers abstract. Also, there are groups of people who are, who like to plan ahead, like an order. Some people like to be open. Now, for me, with all my years of experience, I am all of those. I'm ESTJ, which means I am sensing, I am judging. Therefore, my preference would be to manage a very large project. Whereas my wife, who is the other kind of person, she'll make a good program manager. Now, that doesn't mean she's better than me. I'm better than her. We need to, for me, stop thinking that. We pigeonhole people to say, you are a project manager or you are a program manager. Manage it as an initiative. So as we come out of COVID-19 and we start to do things, look at the initiative and say, how do we manage this? What kind of individual do we believe is the best person to manage that? Lead it, the senior responsible owners, etc. Is that okay? So please stop pigeonholing people. Then when we come to deliver, we deliver it incrementally if we can. We develop something, we deploy, we develop something, we deploy. So deliver that in an incremental way. And stop really thinking about, in the first instance, is it a program or a project? And of course, as we deploy, we deliver benefits early. So the important thing is, COVID-19, we do need to start delivering benefits early as we move along, and then of course, benefits in the future. So that's where it is. That to us is the only difference. If it is big, like the Olympics, then you have a program board. The Olympics program board. Underneath it, you have a hockey project board, you have athletics project board, you have the other board. What we've got to stop doing in organizations I've seen, we have a program board, but all you have are project managers reporting to them. But we call it something like a program board because people believe sitting on a project board is beneath them. Not at all. Just please think about, what is it? If it's too big, do we need to devolve decision making, set up a program? If not, go to project. Please do not waste time at the beginning. So we're going to be talking about this thing called praxis. So what does praxis actually cover and what does it talk about? There is it's available free of charge on the website. I've given you the website, and have a look, and it talks about the knowledge areas, etc. I don't have time today to talk about detail, but what I want to do is again show you the Australian Institute of Project Management have accepted praxis as their body of knowledge partner. So let's look at that. If you look traditionally at project management qualifications, we have, as you see, we have organization, we have quality plans. There is a program management qualification for Prince 2, managing successful programs. Some of you have done that, so that's great to see. So Prince 2, if you look at it, doesn't cover something called the vision. What is the vision? It is the future. Now, I've heard people talk about in the past, difference between program and project is the program has a vision, the project doesn't have a vision. No, that's what the guide says. Why doesn't the project also have a vision? Also, Prince 2, managing successful programs, tend to use a different language. So there are, some inconsistencies between. So what we've got today is praxis. And praxis talks about knowledge areas. And as you see, it covers everything within Prince 2, managing successful programs, but something more. So it talks about leadership styles. It talks about the team building exercise, which are not covered in those methods. Do a qualification that allows you to manage a change initiative. And I was thinking about this morning, you have this concept that because you are new to change initiatives, you will need to do project management first qualification and not program management. Why? If you look at Malala Yousafzai from Pakistan, at the age of 16 in 2014, she won her Nobel Peace Prize. Just because she's young, just because she's new, that doesn't mean she doesn't have the necessary skills. Also, you've got Greta Grunberg, the Swedish lady, I'd call her, but she's only 16. So these youngsters today are doing world famous things, leading the world leaders, I would say. So why do we signpost? So if you look at praxis, it gives us a single qualification. It gives us a single language to go and deliver a change initiative. So it'll be interesting as what kind of feedback you put in as to what you see are the differences, and we'll try and address some of them as we go along. So look at the change initiative, look at all the things you need to do, but the key thing about it all is to tailor. If you're doing something that is a low risk, you may choose to do something less formally. But which of these elements that you see on the knowledge areas that you believe you can leave out? Do we not need to do stakeholder engagement? Do we not need a vision? Do we not need to know what the end goal is? And certainly coming out of COVID-19, I do believe we must consider each of these areas and deliver. Okay, but we'll pick up some questions. So now we've talked about the methodology called praxis. It's a framework. So I wouldn't even call it a methodology. It doesn't say you must do this, you must do this, you must do that. It suggests this in any change initiative, think about all of these areas. And as I said, the information is available free, and we will provide you that information when you come to train with us. We'll share with you our experience. We'll share with you some templates we've created, and we'll share with you the corporate approach of managing as a change initiative. Now, the only thing I want to give you is a little story, and I'm not promoting anybody, anything else at all. 3-4 years ago, having worked in a number of authorities in the UK and abroad, we created this approach, which was what we call generic. It was for all change initiatives, had exactly the same thing apart from the structure. And I went to see Richard Farrow, the chief executive of APMG International, and I said, Richard, and a colleague of mine and a friend, very good, a close friend of mine, Sue Taylor, who's based in Australia, she's an examiner, she's an author of best practice, and we went to Richard and said, we would like to write a little guide about change initiatives, how to manage them. Would you please support us? And he said, actually, Raj, I'll let you into a secret. We are already working with something called praxis. So for me, I'm passionate that I do believe it's important, but we need to get the job sector away from this concept of pigeonholing to say you need to have this specific qualification. Is that okay? So that's important, and we'll take any questions from you as you go along. So what do we do when we've delivered that change initiative? Actually, to me, one of the most difficult parts is the green bit that you see in here, which is change management. And the example that I use with people is putting a dish on the table is the concepts of this change initiative, putting something on. But how do you get your 6-year-old to eat the food that we've just put on the table? Which is more difficult? Delivering and putting the food on the table, or getting somebody to eat it? And almost every person that I ask the question says getting somebody to eat it. So why is it today that we only tend to focus on the delivery? So as we move out of our current state, we start to deliver the change initiatives better. Please don't forget the green bit, which is the transition of moving from the old way of working to the new way of working. And that is change management. And I sometimes would even call it transition management. A couple of police colleagues of ours from Bedfordshire, Cambridgeshire, Hertfordshire have actually said, Raj, this is the human side of organizational change. So please don't forget the human side. So what is change management? So change management for me is similar to framework as praxis, but it's about the change. Organizations don't change. I was reading this morning somewhere that says society doesn't change. It's the people within the society that change. So if you're going to change something, for example, and again, the kind of questions I ask, if you're reporting to a different person, is that a change? If you're sitting at a different seat, sitting at home instead of in the office, is that a change? Or you have a big computer system, or we're going to merge organizations. All of those are changes. Let's not forget the individuals. As we've said, organizations change as a result of the individuals. Look at the speed of adoption. How quickly do they change from the old way of working to the new way of working? The level of utilization. How many individuals actually change? Because we want the majority to be doing that for us to deliver our benefits Because as we've said, in order for us to deliver benefits, we have to change the way that we work. And that was not me, but Albert Einstein. So we deliver the tools, which is through practice framework. We use change management. Of course, the level of proficiency, how good are they? So organizations are like mutual funds. The funds in themselves only develop when the share prices within each of those actually develop. Is that okay? So we're hoping the economy pulls up and people who have shares, we are better off. So what does the change management framework, the methodology actually provide us? Well, first of all, as I said earlier, it could be a single process, it could be a major change, or it could be major. So think about different sides of change, but please don't forget there is always a human being at the end. And my wife, who has an education in the background, also now today she works for the National Health Service in the United Kingdom. She always says to people, whenever you're changing something, please remember, how does it benefit the individual? So that's the thought I would like you to think. The syllabus itself talks about 4 key areas. The change in the individual. As I said already, what are the motivating factors? The syllabus is based on some eminent psychologists, thought leaders on change, and I'll share some of those with you, and I'm sure majority of you will recognize some of those names. Then we talk about change and the organization. So how does the organization change? Do you do it, or do we do it as a big bang top-down approach, which is something referred to as Morgan's metaphors called machine? I'm the senior manager, I'm the leader, I'm telling you, you will do this and go ahead and do it. That's one way you can change it, absolutely. But how will that be adopted? Will that be long-term? Will that be short-term? Whereas the other aspect is what we talk about, flux and transformation. Introduce those changes in a gradual way, which is a little bit like the agile, the incremental way. Do some and do it. And that really is what we talk about in that area. As you see, a massive, we could spend almost a day we spend on stakeholder engagement and communication, and then some change management practices, okay? Now, here are some of the people we talk about, as some of you heard of. John Cotter talks about the 8 steps of organizational change. The first, create the urgency for change. And that is something we said should be referred to in your expression of interest document. What are the problems? Why can't the current state carry on? Is that okay? And so we need to make that very clear as to the concept of the burning platform. Talk about the vision. As a result of this change, what are the improvements we are expecting to deliver? Is that okay? And that was our vision. Lewin talks about this 3-stage model. So we cover those. And of course, Senge. And Senge is very important. Talks about the managers acting like botanists. If you like your gardens, and certainly the weather in the United Kingdom is very good at the moment, people will be gardening. You sow the seed, you water the environment, you feed them, and you flourish. Well, that's what managers should be doing. Acting like botanists. Help grow your staff. So tomorrow or later on when you go to work today, and your boss comes in and pours a bucket of water on you, just remember, they're trying to help you grow. Is that okay? One very crucial thing we also talk about is bridges. And bridges is about the transition. And as you see in here, it's not about putting physical lines. Because if you, one of the classic examples we use, you write all the letters from A to Z. And you go through the alphabet and you write it. And then we say, now reverse the logic and write from Z to A. And you realize that is difficult. Why? Because it's not the normal way. So if you look at bridges, it says when you get people to transition from the old way of working to the new way of working, we go through a period of endings, i.e. we have to let go of the past. So all of these things, we've in the training areas you'd have seen, people were so used to having these classroom training sessions. They said, you know what, I love the classroom, I love the interaction. But now, the way we facilitate our virtual learning, we've been doing it for 5 years, so it's not new to us. people comment and actually say, I like this way. It is so interactive. But you have to let go. You then go through the neutral zone when there is a lot of chaos, conflict in the mind before you move on to new beginnings. So they're not physical lines as you see, it's gradual process. So you go dark to low. So therefore, I sometimes believe instead of calling it change management, we should be calling it transition management. Okay. But also absolutely crucial, we talk about change. Change is, putting a new system in. We've talked about the psychology, as we said, the transition, but also look at the culture. So we cover that and we talk about culture. You have different authors here. You've got Caroline Taylor, you've got Champana Hampton Turner, who talk about culture from different perspectives. One talks about looking at level 1, level 2s, and the most difficult, which is about the basic assumptions, the level 3. Whereas Caroline Taylor talks about symbols, etc. And we talk about climate and culture. Climate changes quickly. As we know in Britain, certainly, within an hour 2 weeks ago, we had the hail, the thunderstorms, gorgeous sunshine. I think we almost saw some snow. Okay, so climate is where we are today. And people are having to make some major decisions very quickly. But culture comes slowly. There are 2 films. We have some colleagues from India on the line, and I'm sure you have seen this Indian movie called Toilet. If you haven't, please watch it. It's a fantastic example. So today, I'm sorry I lead a sad life. Any movies that I watch, anyone I hear speaking on the TV, I'm thinking, how does that relate to my world of organizational change? So this is a fantastic movie. It's about the Indian government spending millions and millions of pounds putting in toilets. And actually, they're still struggling. The one on the right-hand side, I'm afraid, I know it's a difficult time, but it's a fantastic, and we need to understand, it is about Jesse Owen winning the gold medal and what happened in Berlin Olympics in 1936. Is that okay? So watch those movies. You can put whatever effort, so you need to think about culture change. So think about how in the future are we going to manage change initiatives. Use the Praxis framework. And we put in here the practitioner is one of the things that APMG do for those people who've done Prince2, who've done managing successful programs, PMPs, etc. You are exempt from the foundation. So currently, as I said, we're working with several people. They're going through the bridging to the practitioner level, but they do like what Praxis offers. So do that as a qualification. You now have the evidence with a badge, an electronic badge that says, and a certificate, sorry, that shows, yes, I have got the competency, and then look at the change management. What we have done, and people who are on with us, who know about us, and certainly who've been trained by me, we have actually blended the 2 together. So when you look at something about the change management syllabus, we don't do it physically separate to how I might do Praxis. So if I'll do that, but I'll blend, so you actually can see how to deliver organizational change. Is that okay? So on that note, here's our email address. For me, for the moment, thank you very much for listening. And Estelle, any questions, queries, or concerns people have, please?
Actually, I'm going to revert to Nick on that again, Raj, but okay. Thank you very much. So over to you, Nick. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Thanks very much. So we've got quite a few questions that have come in. Yep. Let's kind of start off, if we may, with a question that's been asked by Alison. Okay, Alison Cowan, who was talking about, Myers-Briggs and, that kind of personality profiling, isn't it a little bit, kind of been discredited now, and more scientific approaches have been put in. So if you've been an MBTI tested in the past, isn't Myers-Briggs kind of, sort of falling away a little bit now in preference to, to other ways of studying personality types and, you know, team fit types and that kind of thing. Raj, what are your thoughts on Myers-Briggs? Controversial, not controversial, helpful, not helpful? What do you think?
Okay, for me, I can share with you our personal thing is I know somebody who I trained in managing successful programs who's a Myers-Briggs practitioner, and she wrote everything about me without even me doing my questionnaire.
Okay.
Actually, so she was able to pick up my personality type just by sitting in the same room and being taught, educated by me. So for me, it worked extremely well. But today, you're absolutely right, Alison. People, I know the Metropolitan Police in the United Kingdom, for example, use the concept of using colors. So in our training, we do talk about colors, but actually when you see how the colors fit in, they do overlap a lot of the things about the way Myers-Briggs approached personality type. So although it may not fit in the current world, to me, it still has a standing, and most of the other methods that have been developed have been using Myers-Briggs themselves, based it on Carl Jung all those years ago, you know, and so now you're developing it. So what I was suggesting was the syllabus covers it, but you're right. My suggestion also was don't pigeonhole to say you are a program manager because you have this qualification right at the very beginning. You are a project manager because of this beginning. Treat them as people who can manage a change initiative, and it is based on your personality type, whether you're good at managing programs or you're good at managing projects. So I hope that answers your question, Jonathan.
I think it does. It's quite thought-provoking as well. I mean, you know, Alison, from my own perspective, my early career was in organizational change. I worked with Oracle in the UK, and what I found is that, you know, many of these tools, they're quite useful, but so much depends on the person who's actually using them. And I think you're right. You know, there are elements of them which you can take with a pinch of salt, just as you would do in the method. Now, practice framework itself, we'll come back to change management in a moment. The practice framework itself is gigantic. Covers the whole scope of the 3 Ps, you know, project, program, and portfolio. Reduces a lot of duplication of effort, has a single harmonized, thank the Lord, lexicon of language which is used throughout it, so you don't have the same thing described in different words in different methods. So that's really brilliant. Have a look at practiceframework.org and, you know, navigate your way around it. It's very, 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 very straightforward. I think adds a lot of value, and it doesn't matter which background you have. If you have you know, PMP type qualification or a, you know, legacy qualification, you know, waterfall type project management qualification, doesn't matter. It's hugely helpful. Or if you're an agile, you know, expert, doesn't matter. Practice framework is hugely useful. So do have a look at that. On the change management method side of it, we were asked a question in the chat around what's the difference between, say, ProSci and their qualifications and the APMG change management qualification. And the first one is, the good news is you'll pay a shed load more money for ProSci than you do for the APMG one. And in terms of actual volumes worldwide, the APMG one is, and has been for some time, the fastest growing change management qualification. As you probably know, it's based on the body of knowledge from the Australian Change Management Institute, which is a constantly evolving and up-to-date way of working based on their communities of practice, which are drawn from a very large global membership. So you can, for instance, take our qualifications, take the foundation, the practitioner level, and the expert levels, and so on. And you can also become a member through that of CMI and go on to do a whole variety of CPD. Now, not all of that CPD is mandatory. You know, PMI, ProSci, and so on, you have to collect points, don't you, all the time. It's relentless. It's like you know, you sign up for a gym membership, but then you're actually forced to stay on the treadmill for a very long time. CMI have elements of that in their CPD, but it's not quite as driven, okay, as the ProSci stuff. Anyway, look, think about it from your own perspective. Think about it in your context and consider what the best route forward for you is. Now, we have a question, Raj, which I'll put to you so that you can come back to us in a moment or two. It would be good to know what dates you have in mind, even if it's not a specific start date, but do you have it in mind to run courses in India, say in July or in August? When's the next iteration of either praxis or change management for the Indian market specifically? Because that's the question that we've been asked.
Okay, for the Indian market, I mean, we do constant change management courses. So we would start one in July. Okay. We have trainers based in India who's an author as well in the past for other human sites. So we do that constantly. Praxis, our next one scheduled in India, we're looking to start on the 11th of August.
Okay.
And what we do, and that's one of my dates, rather than giving it that's a week start, I always like to offer dates with a gap in between. So the idea is you do day 1, you go and learn, apply, and then you come do day 2 and 3. Yes, so it'd be the 11th of August would be day 1 of the course for the Indian market.
Right. Okay, that sounds really good. That sounds really good. Now then, one last question I'm going to cover, then I'm going to wrap up. Yep. Last question that we have is, it's really a comment from Ricardo. Thank you, Ricardo. Thanks for joining in again with us today. We appreciate it. And his kind of comment is that, you know, in his experience, human beings by default are averse to change. Raj, just briefly in the kind of 60 seconds we've got left or so, what are your thoughts on that? Are human beings averse to change?
I think we are. I think as human beings, you know, we like our current state, and sometimes if we are comfortable and if it's working, even though if it's gently ticking over, we think, you know what, I'm okay. And really, and that is why one of the things we talk about, both with lots of different authors and lead authors, is you need to create that urgency for change. You need to explain to people why we can't carry on in the current state. And I think once people understand, and if you look at some of the issues around the world today about, you know, India, UK, around the world, we've had lockdowns. And people, over 97, 98% of the people have, abided by those rulings of our leaders because they understand the urgency for change. And they know by staying in, we will protect our lives, our family's life, and lives of other people. And hence people understand that. Because unless we'd explained that, people didn't listen to it and they carried on doing the normal rates. But now people aren't behaving.
Understand. I did see somewhat cheekily something on social media which sort of stuck in my mind actually. It was posted some weeks ago that in stark contrast to other postings on things like LinkedIn where, you know, it's the board that lead digital transformation, or it's the CIO or the chief technology officer or head of sales, or, you know, whatever it happens to be. In stark contrast to all of that, the thing which has accelerated digital transformation worldwide has been COVID-19. And I absolutely agree with that, because we are now in a situation where it is a no choice option. You either change how you work, you change how you connect with your colleagues, you change how you connect with your customers. And those folks who are embracing that and doing that are moving forward. And we as a business are doing the same thing. So Raj, I just want to say thank you so much to you for bringing the content together, sharing some ideas, quite a few thought-provoking ones gathered through all of that content. Thank you very much to everybody who's participated today. It's been really, really good having you as part of this session. So please do, you know, follow up with us individually. You can find me on LinkedIn, it's very easy. You can find Raj as well. You can see his contact details there. You can do this. You can be the change management. You can run projects, you can run programs. So it gives you that ability to turn that aptitude into evidence. That's what a qualification is, yeah? It's your ticket to greater certainty for the future. Thank you very much to Estelle, who has been working tirelessly in the background to draw all of this together, organise all of the logistics and bring that stuff together. And also thank you to Charlotte Miller as well, and Suchitra, who is from our Bangalore office in southern India, who's been working with us on this event, and we'll look forward to working with you in the future as well. Thanks very much indeed. Enjoy the rest of your day. If it's evening, then time possibly for a cup of tea and a sit down. If it's early in the day for you, then enjoy it, whatever the weather brings. Okay, thanks very much, everybody. Okay, bye-bye for now.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.